Let's talk about, I mean, I don't know if you guys, I was talking to Justin or somebody else about, Bill Gates sends out his letter every year about his predictions for 2024 and the year. And a lot of what he talked about was obviously AI, security, things like that too. But what I thought was really fascinating from an innovation perspective is a lot of times in our world, we look at the connectivity, we look at the applications, we look at what I would consider the sausage making of how things work together. Some of these examples that he used around the future looking of, imagine literally talking to AI about your mental health, talking to AI about disease, having these access to things, again, outside the United States, that's able to really change society and not just change business, right? A lot of what we do, we're dealing with business stuff, B2B, consumer stuff, but at the same time, the advancements of this stuff, I think, looking way ahead, and Bill, maybe you're right. Maybe we're not quite at the revolutionary stage. We're not at the Beatles yet, but we're getting close.
The wearables tie into that nicely too. And I think we've seen some good progress on those.
I've got my little ring, that you wear around, and it tells you if you didn't sleep right and, whatever, your heart rate was down, all those things. I think that the amount of data and technology, I think kind of what Bill said, I do think is right. It's more like an evolution. And I look at AI as going to impact us in a similar way that the internet did, in a way that the change is going to be so pervasive, but it may not come as this one thing completely changed. It's we're not going to know yet all of the things that it's going to change, but to say it's not going to impact, we know it's going to have impacts, right? We're already, just at our company messing around with certain things where, and I shouldn't even say messing because we're using it, but we're using it to scroll through and look at RFP opportunities nationwide, right? Where that used to be a major lift and you almost wouldn't even do it because it was too much trouble to try to crunch it all. But now you've got AI running for $25 a month and checks every RFP that comes out nationwide to look to find fits for us, and trying to teach it to do it smarter. But that kind of power for certain things where you're that wasn't when somebody said you could use ChatGPT, that wasn't the use case I was thinking of, but it's just it was a very logical use case that sort of fell on our lap. But I think some of those things we can't, it's gonna be hard to project, but we're going to evolve into this world of that's going to become more and more of our reality. But just like the internet, because now nobody thinks about I'm going to go use the internet to find a recipe. It's just, that's how it's done, obviously. How else would, cookbook, that's something that sits on a coffee table. So I think we don't know what all the impacts are going to be, but it's the writing is on the wall that's going to be part of our life.
Let me lob this over to you boys. Do you think when we talk about predictions in 2024, you're going to see more companies use AI to replace people or amplify their company and make themselves look much, much bigger? What are your thoughts?
Well, Justin mentioned the internet and how it was revolutionary, and it definitely put librarians out of business. But it also created a huge amount of job for programmers, network engineers, security consultants. Yeah. I think we are going to see a change of the workforce. I don't know, maybe a year ago when ChatGPT came out, they had a little slogan that says, AI isn't going to replace your job, but somebody using AI will take your job. That seemed a bit harsh. It also probably is rooted in realities even today. Yep. I think skills can become obsolete. And so we will need a retraining of part of the workforce probably. And that's a very macroeconomic view.
I guess the question, Zach, is though, if you could look at it the other way, right? You could say that it's actually freeing up more time to the philosophy of how we work as a culture and a society is shifting. And hey, maybe this is giving us more time to do the things we want to do versus the things that we have to do.
Very good point. Yep.
Agreed. And I saw some advertisements for a company that was looking for somebody who I forget the exact title. You guys could probably help me out with this. They were looking for somebody who could phrase things properly for ChatGPT to give them the answers that were appropriate. So they were looking for a ChatGPT question engineer. I'm sure they have a fancier title than that.
Developer,
Prompt officer?
Yep.
There you go. Thank you.
Chief Prompt Officer, salary
Your
$400,000
job
a
will
year.
be gone in a year.
Didn't exist 2 years ago.
But I think to answer Zach's question, it's kind of I think it's a combination. I think it's part of what Bill said though around skills. I think it's going to put pressure on all of us to have to reskill faster and more often in our careers than what when you think. Like maybe baby boomers could go through a career and you thought, hey, you were going to have a career and you went to work in the GM plant and you were going to work in the GM plant until you retired. And then, maybe it became more common that maybe you had one career and then you had like a second career. I think, and I read some research, this wasn't just my idea, but some research that said, the younger kids that are growing up now are going to have to reinvent themselves, 10 and 15 times during the course of their career because technology is going to change fast enough that like, even in our lifetime, like we saw data science get really, really hot, and everybody talked about data science and we're going to be a data scientist. And now data science is like starting to like it's kind of already hit the crest of like coming down where it's like, well, do I really need data science or will ChatGPT do that? So it's like, that it was this whole, an ecosystem. College degrees are being developed around it, and it became the biggest thing, and then it started to go away in like a 5-year period. Whereas like for me being a developer, it was like we talked about COBOL was going to go away for 25 years. And I think there's still COBOL developers out there somewhere, but it was like everybody kept saying, "Oh, COBOL is going away," and it would like live on and live on. I think there's the life cycle of the techs are going to come up and go down. I think in a lot of ways quicker than we're used to.